Yes, it's Sandy Ma and Jay Fidell. ThinkTech Hawaii Community Matters. Sandy is Common Cause Hawaii. And today we're talking about automatic voter registration in Hawaii and other bills that Common Cause has opined on in the 2021 legislature. So, Sandy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for having Common Cause Hawaii here with you today.
Absolutely. So tell us, the history of automatic voter registration in Hawaii. I would have thought that we had that somehow because I never have to register anymore. I just go, I just vote. But tell me why and what problem does it solve?
So thanks for that question. So automatic voter registration passed the Hawaii State Legislature this 2021 and is going to the governor for his signature. So please, for all of those of you who support voting and democracy and making registration easier for our Hawaii citizens, contact the governor and encourage him to sign this bill, SB 159. It's a good bill. What it does is allow people who interact with the DMV when they go and update their driver's license, get a new driver's license, update their state ID or get a new state ID to register to vote at the DMV. And so registering to vote is unfortunately not at the top of everyone's mind, but updating your driver's license is, getting a state ID is, because you need that to open a bank account or apply for a job. So we have to, or drive a car, obviously. So clearly, we have to update our driver's license and get a new ID. And so when you're there, you will be asked whether you want to vote, and you can register to vote there and automatically check a box. And then your voter registration information will be automatically transferred to the Office of Elections.
Mm.
And at that time, that's all you need to do. Instead of filling out more paperwork, uh, have to spend more time at the DMV. All the information is collected already there when you update your driver's license, get a new driver's license. And all that information is automatically transferred to the elections office. We have vote by mail in Hawaii. So when you are registering to vote at the DMV, you will get the ballot in the mail through our vote by mail process. So it becomes a real seamless process to be an engaged citizen in Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah. Suppose you don't drive.
Well, that's a great question. If you don't drive, most people still have a state ID or a driver's license because, like I said, if you fly to the neighbor island, or if you fly to the mainland, you get a driver's license to prove you are who you are to get on that plane to go through security checkpoints. You have a driver's license or a state ID to open a bank account or to prove who you are to your employer, for the ID checks. So it people do get those IDs as to prove who you are. So people do register to vote through the DMV even if you don't have a car.
Sandy, I wonder if you had any resistance to this bill. I wonder if there was anybody who showed up to oppose automatic voter registration. I like to know who that is.
There were some people who were very concerned about this bill. They were worried that people who were not citizens would be registered to vote because if you are not a citizen of the U.S., you could still get a driver's license. You could still get a state ID. Um, yeah, like students who are from other countries or permanent resident aliens can get driver's licenses and state IDs. But when you go to the DMV, you have to prove your citizenship with the real ID system that we have here. You have to show that you are a citizen. And so, those who are not citizens, US citizens, your information will not be uh, automatically transferred to the elections offices to be a registered voter.
Mhm.
So accidentally, if you accidentally said, "Yeah, I would like to vote," um, if you have not proved citizenship, you will not be registered to vote. So that just won't happen. That that there's a check in place that you have to show that you are a U.S. citizen.
Well, when you're renewing your driver's license, which I did a few months ago, they ask you a lot of questions. And I suppose those questions may now be increased, with the automatic voter registration process that it would be inherent with renewing your driver's license. So it's not that hard to require somebody to prove citizenship. And I guess when you say citizenship, you mean citizenship of the state. In other words, if I'm here on a vacation or something, and I happen to have a local address, but I'm from Colorado, we don't want me to register to vote here because voting here is only for citizens of Hawaii, right?
That's true. You have to be a resident of the state of Hawaii and a citizen of the United States. So it's actually proving citizenship of the United States and residency of Hawaii.
Good. So where did this bill come from? Was this a common cause bill?
Common Cause has been supporting the bill for a number of years. It's had several champions in the Senate. One of the great champions of this bill is Senator Carl Rhodes. In the House, a champion of the bill in the House was um, Chris Lee, but now he is in the Senate. The sponsor of the bill in the House this year was Representative Nakashima, who's chair of the Judiciary. And so this bill had support of both House leadership and Senate leadership. So uh, we had a lot of support in the legislature to move this bill. So it was good.
Yeah, that's good. I'm wondering why it took years to get it passed.
I think the legislative process it does take some time to educate the public. It takes time to educate the legislators, and it is always a good, thoughtful exercise in getting consensus and getting uh, a bill through. And I did have this discussion with someone just recently as to why things sometimes move slowly. And I think it's our democratic process. It's a debate. It is uh, um, making sure that we come to the right conclusion and we have a good bill that moves and gets adopted. Hopefully, if governor signs this bill, SB 159, um, we don't want to possibly adopt a bill that may be bad law on the books and may have negative consequences. And this is not one of those bills. And
Mhm.
so I, I don't have a problem with going slowly and making sure that we do something the right way. So I I I applaud a good, thoughtful consensus decision making process.
So the bill is effectively passed. It hasn't gone to a floor vote yet, has it?
It
But it is.
has
Oh, it has. Okay, good.
the floor vote was Tuesday. Um, what month are we? It's been a long session.
Mm,
March 27th,
yeah,
excuse me, April 27th,
yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah.
It passed the floor vote in both houses. And so it will be enrolled to the governor for his signature.
Is there any suggestion he might veto this bill? That would be a very unpopular veto.
I don't think so. I haven't heard anything. It really complies with federal law. Um, um, 20 states, over 20 states in Washington, the District of Washington, have adopted automatic voter registration. Our government agencies in Hawaii, um, the Office of Elections, the county clerk's office, support automatic voter registration because it eases the burden on them. It's electronic transfer of data.
Right.
So it is a good measure. It modernizes our elections. It really helps vote by mail in the sense that, if you are automatically registered to vote and you are asked the question, do you want to opt in? And for already registered voters, you are asked, do you want to opt out? Because you're already registered to vote.
Yeah.
And it updates the voter address rolls for vote by mail. So we're not wasting money mailing vote by mail ballots to wrong addresses. It's a win-win. Updates our voter rolls for election security. It saves us money. It's the electronic transfer of data, so people don't have to um, data enter keystrokes again. It causes errors possibly. It's a win-win for
It's a
everyone.
win-win, sure. But the thought strikes me though, Sandy, that we just came off an election that was and is contested around voting rights and voting procedures. Stop the steal, whatnot. And in fact, there's still recounts going, like Arizona, for example, which is ridiculous. But there you have it. And and I wonder how much of the impetus of this bill and of the initiative of the legislature to pass it this year is based on the sad story of what happened in all the controversy around the elections last November.
That's a great question, Jay. I am really glad that our legislators and our entire legislature here in Hawaii um, did not introduce voter suppression laws, recognize that Hawaii wants to protect our voters and our voting rights. And so our legislators did a really, really great job here in Hawaii. Not only did we advance automatic voter registration, we saw what was going on around the country, and we said we're not gonna go in that direction. We're going to do something different. And so we advanced automatic voter registration, made improvements to our vote by mail law. So that bill also passed the House and Senate floor votes on um, April 27th, and is also going to get enrolled to the governor. And so our vote by elections, the first statewide one in 2020, was also incredibly successful and will.
What did the bill do? What did that second bill do?
So the second bill actually asking the state Department of Public Safety and parole offices to inform persons on probation and parole of their rights to vote and how to register to vote. So that was great. That's a great improvement. So people on probation and parole will be informed of their voting rights and how to register to vote. And also, it expanded the vote by mail period. Ballots will be mailed at least 18 days before election day. So that's good. You have more time to study your ballots
Hmm.
at home.
Hmm.
Drop boxes will be open at least 18 days. Well, excuse me, will be open when ballots are mailed to you. So that's a good improvement. And also, additionally, the Office of Elections and the clerks of each county will have to study the optimum places and the optimum number of drop boxes and voter service centers that should be placed throughout the state, according to a list of criteria that was proposed by Common Cause. And so that's a really good, um, some really good measures in the bill.
So, any opposition on that one?
Um, Not really. Not really. There was some negotiations between uh, the House and the Senate. Common Cause always wants more voter service centers, and um, what ultimately ended up was that there should be a voter service center in each county open for 10 days prior to each election day. With set hours, and then the clerks to have the flexibility to open more voter service centers um, on for days and times that they feel are suitable in their counties. We would, of course, like to see more guidance from the um, set in statute, but that did not happen. But we are happy that they are supposed to do a study under the current bill that's being enrolled to the governor.
Hmm. And he's probably going to sign it.
We think so. We
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
So we have a bill, the President Biden's bill, Voting Rights Act bill,
Mhm.
in Congress right now, sitting languishing nicely in the Senate, as so many things do.
Yes.
And I wonder if Common Cause, which is obviously interested in voting rights around the country, has taken a position and is advocating for the passage of that bill.
Oh, yes. We definitely support For the People Act. It has some great provisions. It standardizes voting hours across the state. It supports automatic voter registration. So it does a lot of great things and for the People Act. And so it's actually passed the House, and like you said, it's going to be heard in the Senate. It's being marked up as we speak, so it will be heard in the Senate. And we expect a vigorous debate in the Senate, but we definitely support that. We're contacting senators throughout the country, asking them to support it.
That's great. Good for you. Good for Common Cause. Now that they've talked about a constitutional challenge to that bill if it does pass, on the basis of notions of federalism, leaving the specifics of voting to the states, and here the federal government will be stepping in and telling the states what to do, and that would, arguably be a constitutional issue. Would Common Cause, join in that litigation to oppose a challenge to the bill if it passes?
I don't know. I can't, I can't speak to the future. I don't know what our office would do about that. But I do know that we are challenging uh, the rollbacks to voting rights in Georgia. So we do participate in lawsuits. So yes, if necessary, we definitely will step in. So yes, we are one of the plaintiffs in the Georgia um, rollback.
So yeah, I mean, there's a whole um, campaign, Republican campaign around the country where something close to 50 states have all the Republican, led legislatures around the state have these, what do you call them, rollback bills, limiting voting all around the country. And gee whiz, that's a lot of work for Common Cause. I mean, if you take the position you want to open voting up, not close it down, then Common Cause has got to be busy in dozens and dozens of states trying to stop these anti-voting bills. No,
Yes, no, we are certainly busy. I mean, in Hawaii, I have to say I've been very lucky. I mean, this is a great state to work in. I mean, the only bill that I could think of that came remotely close in Hawaii was a bill to eliminate uh, uh, Election Day as a state holiday, and I testified against that, saying that it didn't quite make sense because we still have in-person voting at government sites. And given the lines that we saw in 2020, that would make it quite difficult. And so and like I said, kudos to our state legislators. They listened, and that those bills quickly died. And
good.
so
I'm happy to hear that.
yeah.
Who
So
would advance a bill like that?
I think it was just I don't really know. I didn't ask the reason behind it. It was just I think they were trying to. Some of the bills were like substituting a different day for Election Day holiday, and so I mean,
Okay, all right.
yeah,
So I get the idea that Common Cause cares a lot about voting, and in terms of the issues that are now pending in general in this country, voting is a very, very important one. Therefore, Common Cause is very important. Is it fair to say that if I support open voting, if I care about open voting, and I want to encourage, vote by mail and automatic registration and all those things around the country in the states where those issues are coming up, that if I make a contribution to Common Cause, I will be achieving my goal. Am I right about that?
I, yes, yes, we do. We don't take any government funding. We don't take any corporate funding. Uh, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we are funded by small dollar donations and foundation funding. So we constantly look for foundation money, and we certainly welcome small dollar donations. And if you donate to the national office, it goes to the national office. If you donate to the state office, such as my state organization, then your money will stay here to fund work in the state of Hawaii.
Is your advocacy supervised by the national office?
In a sense that I have a national governing board that they have guidelines for issues to follow, and if it works within Hawaii, that then I will advance those guidelines.
Mhm. Are there any other initiatives aside from voting? We've talked about that. We're not
Yeah.
finished talking about it, but that Common Cause here in Hawaii is advocating for or against this year.
Yes, so we also focus on ethics and accountability. And so we had two ethics bills and accountability bills that advanced this year and has already been enrolled to the governor. One is HB um, 670, which is authorizing the court to forfeit half of a government employee's pension if they have been convicted of a felony related to their government work.
Only
So
half.
only only half. It's a compromise. It's better than having you know
It's better than the irony of having somebody convicted of a felony then getting a full pension.
yeah yeah
That's really upside down.
yeah. So I mean, so it's related to if you've been convicted of a felony related to your government work, such as bribery or embezzlement, or something like that. And it's only a court order, and it's after conviction. So we have a lot of due process steps in place.
Is that going to pass?
It's been enrolled to the governor. And so we hope the governor will sign that into law. So it did pass the legislature, and this was a long time in coming. Also, this bill has been introduced many, many years in a row, and it finally, yes, passed the legislature.
Yeah, I have a
So,
you have a timing issue on that one. I mean, recently we've seen in the news about how certain people in the city, in Department of Planning and Permitting, have been taking bribes, are allegedly, they're going to be they are investigated for it, and they're likely to be prosecutions if there aren't already. And my guess is there likely to be some convictions too. And if that happens, you have to ask whether this bill, now enrolled and hopefully soon to be signed, would apply to their retirement. Would it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But we just I don't think it will. But I think this bill is necessary to go on the books, just so that government is taking a stand against unethical conduct. Uh, uh, we're only one of 13 states that don't have a bill such as this on the books. Whether
Yeah.
or not a court will actually order any type of forfeiture, I don't even know if that will happen, because after restitution is in place, and there may not be anything left to forfeit. But,
Yeah.
uh, uh, but it still needs to, as an ethical stand to, to put on the
Yes.
book.
Any other causes of note in this session that you're advocating for or against?
Yes, so we have another bill that made it past the legislature floor votes, and has already been enrolled to the governor. HB 671. And this bill is interesting because this bill was vetoed last year by the governor. So this bill is a 12-month cooling off period. So if you are a high ranking department head, and it covers the legislators themselves, you will be prohibited from lobbying the legislature and your own department and any other departments for 12 months after leaving service.
That's good for optics. It's good for public confidence in the administration of legislation and justice. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So last year, this similar bill was vetoed because the governor felt that it was too broad, that it covered certain boards and commissions that were non-paid. Um, and it's hard to recruit for boards and commissions, that we had too many empty seats on commissions. And so we narrowed the scope a little. And so hopefully it will allow the governor to sign this year. And like I said, this is why the process can take some time. Um, uh, the legislature, the legislative process, civic engagement. If you just want to go in and you think you're going to get a win right away, it's a slog, and you have to be in it for the long haul and to craft a bill. that's just not good for you, but it's good for the general public at large.
Yeah, we all have to care, and Common Cause cares. So if I want to know what bills you're advocating for or against, if I want to know what your issues are, I can go on commoncause.org/Hawaii, and I can see a list of all your positions. No,
Yes, we do. We put it up there. We also are active on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter. And so, yes, and at the beginning of each session, we have a kind of, well, we do it in person, but the session we just had a webinar, kind of talk story about issues we have of interest. And then people could sign up and get an email blast from me, uh, gosh, kind of almost every week, asking for supportive testimony or testimony against certain bills that we find uh, uh, may be harmful to democracy. And so yes, that's what.
yeah. Well, okay. And how do I get on that mailing list, Sandy?
Oh, I will put you on, Jay.
Okay, please.
Yeah, you
You
may
see,
regret it.
you use the magic word democracy, and I think all people who care about the future of this country are concerned about democracy these days. And I feel that Common Cause is an organization which, as you said, cares about democracy. But one of the concerns I have about Hawaii, and Hawaii is unique for sure. It's different than every other state, and in many ways better. In many ways better than any other state. But great concern is the voting turnout in Hawaii. I don't know why it's as low as it is. It has been low. You mentioned before the show that it has increased. Maybe that's because of all the media coverage over the 2020 election. But could you talk about that a little and talk about what it is, what it has been, where it's going, and what we can do about it?
Yeah, so Common Cause worked really hard with other partners and with the Office of Elections and the County Clerk's Office to educate the public about vote by mail for the 2020 elections. We wanted to make sure people understood that it was all vote by mail with few in person options and the deadlines for voting by mail and how to vote by mail. Um, and so we did experience a significant increase in voter turnout for the 2020 elections. Um, for the general elections, it was over 11% increase over the previous general election. And for the 2020 primary elections, it was over a 16% increase over the previous general election. And we haven't seen turnout like that since the early 90s. And so it's like 25 years ago. So maybe I did my math wrong. But anyway, it's like 25 years ago, we haven't seen elections like that. And so that's actually something to be really proud of. We had some really competitive races: Honolulu mayor's race, the Big Island mayor's race. We had the Honolulu prosecutorial's race, and Big Island prosecutorial's race. And so we had some really huge races. Um, and so I think the 2022 race will be really interesting too, because every single legislator at the state level will be up for election after redistricting in Hawaii. And so it will be very interesting. I think vote by mail is good for Hawaii. I talked to a number of people who said that was the first time they voted because it made voting easier for them. They
Sure.
could just turn it in. And they had time to study the ballot at home. Um, and so, I mean, we had over a dozen people running for mayor in Honolulu, and the Big Island had, I think, nearly 20 ballot initiatives or charter amendments. So it is good to have time to study at home um, these issues.
Do you write up the candidates? Do you include in your newsletters or on your website précis on exactly what they've done, what they stand for, and do you endorse any of them?
We do not endorse. We are nonpartisan, so we do not endorse. But we did send out a candidate survey and asked questions on issues that are central to democracy, like do you support automatic voter registration? Do you support vote by mail? Do you support expanding rights for people to vote? Issues central to democracy, we did send out a survey, and then we did publish the answers. And like they answered 7 out of 9 questions, and so we did do that, and we hope to do that again for
Hmm.
2022.
Well, I see Common Cause as a bulwark to protect democracy. I do. I think it's always been that from the inception, and certainly now in the positions you've taken. And I, for one, I'm very concerned about our democracy. We saw things in the Trump administration that were very scary and were clearly efforts to undermine democracy in favor of making him more powerful. Autocracy is not a good choice, and unfortunately, it's happening in other countries, and to some extent, it happened during his administration. So my question is, how does Common Cause feel about that? About protecting democracy in general, about standing up against would-be autocrats, and how do you feel about it, Sandy?
That is the central tenet of Common Cause. That is our mission: is to protect democracy, is to uphold the foundations of American democracy, to make sure that people have uh, have the right to vote and access the power structure, know how to access the power structure. And so that is what we do. And how do I personally feel about it? I am an immigrant to this country. My grandparents fled communist China. And so I grew up on stories um, of the importance of democracy and how I personally feel about it. I've been taken to the polls since I was a child. And it means something to me. So that's how I personally feel about it. It matters. It's mattered throughout my family history. So yes, it's
You
important.
touch me, Sandy. Thank you very much. Thank you for appearing, and thank the Common Cause for appearing on our show here, talking about voting rights, talking about responsibility of public officials, talking about democracy in our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay, for having us on, and hope to be on in the future again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Aloha.